Good morning, and welcome to today's webcast, Accelerate Your Month-End Close with Lean Principles. Before we begin, I'm going to play a brief housekeeping video.
Welcome, and thanks for joining. We're pleased to present our continuing professional education webcast series. Before we begin, please keep the following in mind. You can customize how you view our presentation and interact with the presenter. For better viewing, close all other applications and turn up your speaker volume. You can adjust window size and placement or enter full screen mode using the controls at the top right of the window or dragging the bottom right-hand corner to resize. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a series of icons that relate to a different aspect of our session. You can download a PDF of today's slides from the Slide Deck and Handouts widget. You can ask questions by typing in the Q&A window and clicking Submit. We'll do our best to answer all questions or follow up via email. If you experience technical difficulty, refresh your browser by hitting the F5 key. Today's session offers 1 CPE credit. To receive credit, you must meet the National Association of State Boards of Accountancy requirements. You must attend at least 50 minutes of the session and respond to at least 75% of polling questions. To participate in the polls, please check the button next to your answer within the slide window and click Submit. We'll track your progress and alert you when you've earned CPE credit. You can then click the certificate icon in the CPE Progress widget and download your CPE certificate. Don't worry if you can't download your CPE certificate today. We'll email you a copy in 2 weeks. If attending this webcast in a group, you must complete our group CPE attendance sheet, available in our Slide Deck and Handouts widget to receive credit. Please have all group members sign it and send only 1 sheet per group. CPE credit can only be awarded to participants registered as themselves and isn't available for participants who view the on-demand version. This presentation is not legal, investment, or accounting advice. We encourage you to seek the counsel of a professional service provider to apply this content to your specific circumstances.
I'm pleased to introduce today's presenters. From Moss Adams, Steve Fineberg, partner, and from ETA Consulting, Rishi Malhotra, partner. Steve has provided internal audit, enterprise risk management, SOX, and IT compliance and management consulting services since 2003. He's developed deep, relevant experience performing business process and information technology control reviews across multiple industries. Rishi specializes in lean strategy and operation excellence consulting. With 25 plus years of experience, Rishi helps companies grow sustainably without CapEx or additional manpower. With that, I will turn it over to Steve to get us started.
Great. Good morning and good afternoon to all. Welcome. Great topic that we have here for you today, and we're excited to share it with you. If we jump right to the first slide, I just don't want to waste any time. If we were to sum up this presentation into 1 slide, this would be it. If you want to continuously improve month-end close and maybe do it without significant investments in labor and in software, then the big takeaway is that process excellence and not necessarily automation is the key to achieving a fast yet robust close. Based on some internal audit best practices, of course, there's the objective of increasing operational effectiveness and efficiency. We're going to help identify areas where we can help streamline and reduce costs in the close. But first, let's talk about what process excellence is. This refers to the practice of analyzing and improving existing processes to make them more efficient and effective and aligned with organizational goals. It involves identifying bottlenecks, eliminating waste, and standardizing procedures. So according to lean standards, 95% of improvement opportunities lie in the in-between process steps and not in the process steps themselves. 95% of work is typically non-value added activities, which are steps in a process that don't necessarily increase the value of a product or service. In contrast, value added activities are steps that directly increase the value of a product and service and for which customers are willing to pay. An example might be in a manufacturing line, the actual assembly of parts, the process step, may be efficient, But delays often occur during the handoff between assembly activities, machine setups, packaging changes, and even quality control. Streamlining communications and reducing wait times between these two steps can lead to a significant efficiency gain. One area that tends to be a source of solution is automation. That tends to accelerate process steps, but process improvement reduces the waste in between these steps. So there's this element of, if you automate a inefficient process, you're going to end up with an automated inefficient process. Another element is empowering employees to work in between process steps is easier than focusing on the process steps themselves. Some process steps tend to have legal constraints, but in between steps are discretionary. For example, allowing customer service representatives to suggest improvements in the ticketing system, which is an in-between step, can lead to quick fixes, whereas changes in the actual ticketing system, a process step, may require extensive IT involvement and longer timelines, as well as change management. Similarly, preparation of the financial statements, balance sheet, income statement, etc., must comply with accounting standards like GAAP or IFRS and other regulatory requirements. This step is non-negotiable and must be executed according to specific legal guidelines. But by optimizing the discretionary communication and collaboration methods, organizations can significantly reduce the time it takes to prepare and review financial statements. They can enhance clarity, minimize errors, all while ensuring compliance with the legal mandated steps. This approach allows for more agile and efficient financial close process, even with the constraints of these legal requirements. Thirdly, automation is expensive, but process excellence is free. The in-between steps can often be changed by out-of-the-box thinking by just about anyone. For example, a frontline employee at a retail store might suggest a new layout for the checkout area that reduces customer wait times, demonstrating that innovative ideas can come from anyone, not just management. Automation is almost always an expensive, expert-led process. For instance, implementing an ERP system or an enterprise resource planning system typically requires hiring a consultant, IT expert, etc., which can lead to high costs and extended timelines. Another advantage of process excellence is that it can make instantaneous change, while automation is much slower. A team can quickly implement a new protocol for handling customer complaints in a call center, leading to immediate improvements in customer satisfaction, while automating the complaint handling process would take time for development, testing, implementing all the SDLC controls. You can change your thinking in a moment and impact the process significantly. A manager might realize that a rigid policy is causing delays and decide to allow flexibility in decision-making. But automation, as I said, requires expert contemplation, approvals, budgets, all sorts of delays. An unexpected benefit of implementing lean principles as well is that we all become process engineers. A process engineer at work brings engagement, agency, satisfaction, meaning, while learning to operate a system designed by someone else is sometimes seen as a chore. For example, a process engineer who identifies and implements improvements in a production line feels a sense of ownership and accomplishment, while an employee merely may be following a manual, maybe feel slightly disengaged. Another element, similarly, is that buy-in is a critical part of any improvement strategy that's implemented and cannot be achieved easily without participation and bottom-up creative input. An example is a team that collaborates to redesign their workflow is more likely to embrace the changes than if a management imposes this new policy without their input. So consider process excellence as a remedy. And even if the intent is to automate, improving the process to be automated via process excellence makes absolute sense. While automation can significantly enhance efficiency by reducing manual effort and minimizing errors, automating a flawed or inefficient process can lead to perpetuating those flaws on a larger scale. If the underlying process is not optimized, automation may simply speed up inefficiencies rather than resolve them. So, what is a fresh approach? We know that we need to consider a fresh approach when accelerating the close cycle, because we know, as per the AICPA, that the monthly close creates incredible costs in time and resources for most companies. You have a week aggregating numbers, you have a week analyzing results, you have a week distributing reports, and then it's time to start the next month all over again. And according to this book that we're going to reference a couple of times here, Stephen Bragg's Fast Close, a guide to quickly closing the books quickly, I should say. He talks about the closing process is traditionally a slow one, and surveys reveal that the average company requires at least 2 weeks to close their subsidiaries' books, followed by roughly another 3 weeks to roll up the results into corporate level financial statements. So companies are clearly having a difficult time shortening the close process. And when it comes to implementing these changes or working on process excellence, the finance function is often the best single source of truth for operating metrics. How do we move forward? We recognize that the best single source of truth for operating metrics is really the accounting department, because financial people are naturally suited to being the issuers of single source of truth metrics related to sales and production, and quicker delivery of those benefits through analysis control, and decision-making. Rapid close also telegraphs the firm's competence to its stakeholders. The faster the close and less mistakes, the more competent the accounting department may seem. And then time saved from the close can also free financial personnel for other business growth related tasks. Performance measurement, KPIs, market research, strategic planning, sales and marketing, customer relationship management, partner development, all of these are growth activities that can be addressed when you streamline the accounting question. And this will get us to our first polling question. Talia?
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. The first polling question is, how much time does it take your company to close its month? A, within 5 days of month end, B, within 10 days of month end, C, within 2 weeks of month end, D, within 3 weeks of month end, E, it takes us more than 3 weeks. If you select your answer choice on the screen and hit the submit button, your polling question will be recorded today. Just a reminder here that you must answer 3 of the 4 polling questions to receive CPE credit for today. Give everyone a few moments to respond here. And let's take a look at the results.
I'm impressed with those who can close it within 5 days. It's almost 20%. That's an impressive number. Typically, we see that those numbers are, as per our presentation so far, much more skewed a little bit to the right of the timeline there. So good on you for those of you. Not very surprising, similarly, to see almost 20% closing within 3 weeks. And 10% taking more than 3 weeks. So a good diverse group of statistics here. And so we can see we got a broad swath. Let's jump into a couple things. I did mention this book, this Fast Close, A Guide to Closing, and it's one of the books that we have in the bibliography that we'll provide at the end. But essentially, Bragg talks about in order to perform a fast close, the element is to strip out wait times, consolidate tasks, eliminate unnecessary functions, add transaction best practices, and then selectively apply automation where necessary. Consequently, he notes that it's a task an industrial engineer trained in efficiency improvements would feel quite at home. Hence, we have Rishi. But lean waiting refers to the concept within management that emphasizes minimizing or eliminating wait times in processes to enhance efficiency and productivity. And in lean thinking, waiting is considered a form of waste, which does not add value to the product or service being delivered. And so lean waiting can occur at various stages in the process, such as when employees wait for materials, information, approvals, or equipment. Identifying these wait times is crucial for improving workflow. We know that wait times can lead to bottlenecks, reduce throughput, and increase lead times. So by addressing these delays, organizations can improve overall efficiency and effectiveness. Unnecessary tasks, well, how do you ID them? There's a number of ways we can go about that using lean methodology. Value stream mapping is one way to visualize processes and identify areas of waste, including waiting. And this helps teams pinpoint where improvements can be made. Lean principles advocate for continuous improvement, or Kaizen. Reducing wait times is an ongoing effort that includes regularly assessing processes and making adjustments to limit delays. Visual flows and mapping is a key tool to identifying opportunities to reduce waste in the process. Best practices align with Yokoten, which is a Japanese term that means best practice sharing or horizontal deployment. It's a process that involves sharing ideas, concepts, and policies across an organization to create a standardized, efficient workflow. So it's best practices, but it's much more. Similarly, selective automation, there's the term Jidoka, which is a lean manufacturing concept that means automation with a human touch. It's a combination of the Japanese words autonomous and automation. And there's no throwing automation over the wall and hope that it sticks. Jidoka's goal is to create a defect-free production system by using machines to automatically detect and stop abnormalities, and then having operators intervene to fix the issue. This allows operators to oversee multiple machines at once, which can lead to significant cost savings and productivity gains. So yes, automation, which we're not in any way discounting, but with human intervention and a very lean perspective on it. Rishi?
Thank you, Steve. And please keep the questions coming from a technical standpoint, from a lean standpoint. Love to hear all the questions. And so again, welcome everyone. Thank you. And so in continuation, automation, what that does is it's faster and cheaper. It focuses on the steps of automation are, first, can we make the process faster? And it results in cheaper, while the lean sequence is easier, better, faster, and cheaper. And this was, as per Shingo, that's the purpose of improvement. And easier is for the process owner, the person who works the process. And better is for the company, the quality is improving of the change or of the improvement, and for the employee. Faster is for the company and for the customer. And the reason for that is lead times, for example. Everyone wants their product or service faster, and cheaper, of course, is for the customer. And these could be internal customers as well. That means employees. Lean puts emphasis on making the process easier. And if people are, for example, working 6 hours as opposed to 8, because the process is easier to do, it will be of higher quality as well. And all these tends to speed up the process while cost is reduced. And easier is the first thing which all employees want to do. If they are given, if they're empowered, this lets them engage with the systems and with the processes. And if it is employee initiated, the outcome will be a lot better. So how do we make a process easier? By focusing on these 4 concepts. The first one is short interval control. What this refers to, as an example, if you're doing something once a month, can we start doing it twice a month? That's once every 2 weeks. Once we have stabilized the system, then can we start doing that once every week? That is 4 times a month. The concept of one piece flow, that refers to if you're doing 100 transactions at a time, uploading, downloading, the financial transactions, can we do one at a time? And this is a philosophy that refers to, if you're doing 100 at a time, can we reduce to 50? Once we have stabilized, can we get to 25, so on and so forth? Standardization provides employees a benchmark against which to assess the improvement ideas. And what that refers to is, yes, we want to standardize so that everyone does it the same way, but that provides a benchmark so that we can always use that to improve. Something that happens in 2 days, everyone knows that it happens in 2 days. Can you make it happen in 1.9 days? And these are my ideas. And empowerment is key. Information and information with employees, short interval control, one piece flow, and standardization transfer the power to the employees to make that change. So these are the 4 concepts that help a process or improvement to make it easier. And how do we incorporate these in everyday work? Is we can kickstart lean fast close via Kaizen events to make processes easier first. And so what is a Kaizen event? This is a 5-day event. This is the most popular tool of the lean toolbox. This is a very high energy, high impact, hands-on implementation focused event where we come in with a team of 6 to 10 people from the clients, and which they receive rapid training, typically the first 2 hours of Monday, and we start improving the process. Now, Kaizens deliver on the soft skills as well, and increases the morale and communication of employees because they are the ones that are making these changes. So how is a Kaizen event run? First, we pick a process. It could be the payables, it could be any process. And and then we do a charter. That means we meet for 1 or 2 hours. It could be in person or over Zoom or over a video call. And we create this charter where we define the problem. What is the problem we are trying to solve? What are the expected results? What is in scope? What is out of scope? Who is going to participate? Who are these 6 or 10 people? Do we need any information before the Kaizen event, which would happen in 2 to 3 weeks? And during the event, we make these improvements, which can be implemented the following Monday. And so the improvements are seen immediately, and CapEx is typically zero. These improvements are focused on the ideas generated by the employees.
And we have our second polling question of the day. Has automation significantly reduced your month-end close cycle? A, yes, we have experienced a significant improvement. B, no, there was no significant improvement in our month-end close cycle. C, automation actually elongated our month-end close cycle. And D, we have not automated our month-end close. I will give everyone a few moments to respond here. And just as a reminder, if you select your answer choice on the screen and hit the submit button, your polling question will be recorded for today. And another reminder, if you would like to receive CPE credit for today's webcast, you will need to answer 3 of the 4 polling questions. I'll give everyone a few moments here to respond. And let's take a look at the results.
Great. We have, so the largest answer, of course, is that having not automated the month-end close. And I don't want to make sure, I want to make sure that we ensure I'm not throwing any shade in any way at automation. Automation is a great tool, but it's not always the silver bullet. So actually, let's spend a couple of minutes comparing those lean approach, the 4 elements that Rishi just described, which we compare them to some typical solutions that you might have. So according to traditional fast close, the fastest way to, or the best way to increase and streamline your process is through automation. And what Rishi is saying as well, the short interval control through Kaizen event is a great way to do that. The key element is, as we've noted here a couple of times, is that software is great. It's a great tool. But if you don't have process excellence as you design the new automated process, you're just building some waste into the automated process. You have a Kaizen event, that waste is eliminated. And so you're not automating that element. Again, you can still automate, but you should be automating with a great process. Automation, it can take a significant amount of time to implement. As Rishi just referred to, a Kaizen event can be conducted in a week to shorten the process and deliver the new process the next week. Automation software, of course, there's CapEx that's required. It's expensive. It takes time and resources from the team and IT folks. Whereas in Lean, it really is, it's about, you just need creativity of the employees and engagement. And there's huge ROI, again, because you're not investing in a significant software system. The time involved is the time of the employees spend to help redesign the process. Automation, again, you may be automating non-value add activities, whereas once post-Kaizen event, those non-added value activities have been eliminated. In automation, you have your change management process formalized in your IT general controls, and modifications can be difficult and expensive. However, using the lean approach, there's continuous improvement built into the system, and there's no money or infrastructure required to make those changes. Automation also requires more people, more resources. You need IT backing and governance. And from the lean approach, you have less resources, less people required. They solve the issue and they engage in it. One other point to make is if your competitors are all implementing this software, there's no real competitive advantage if everyone has the software. But if you have process excellence, you are building a competitive advantage into your processes, and it's very hard to copy and very effective. Another element that traditional close talks about as far as streamlining the close or increasing the speed of the close is really redefining the close process, collapsing it, shrinking the number of activities, collapsing those details, maybe raising materiality to scope some things out, perhaps dekeying some controls, which doesn't actually make them go away. But quality is potentially decreased if you are eliminating activities. So the key is, how can you increase the close and enhance it by not reducing some of the activities? So that's another element as far as standardization, is finding where the opportunities are to eliminate certain elements. Another thing that is, as you have seasonality and other elements of the close, you might have potentially a different close process every month. But when you standardize, you have a one least waste way to close the period every month. Traditionally also, the close process, undocumented. In the Kaizen element with the process maps, we document the process. And while you may have some SOPs that deal with the process at a high level, if at all, a lot of those SOPs are not documented. They're institutional knowledge. Whereas standardization, when you have that in your process, it's built right into the system for your use. Another element that is a solution traditionally as far as compacting the close or streamlining the close is doing activities either before the close or after the close. So either doing in advance or in deferring it. And essentially what that does is it keeps the overall workload unchanged. It's just affecting the timing. So through a Kaizen event and through one-piece workflow, you can actually reduce the workload overall. Typically also as a result of the extra steps and the activity and just from historical institutional knowledge, you may be over-documenting elements. Through the one-piece flow and through the traditional or through the Kaizen approach to the process, we can reduce the documentation and keep items in real time. If you batch items, you're having delayed business intelligence. If you're doing items in small one-piece flow, you can have access to the real-time business intelligence. Also, batch processing, error-prone. If you're entering 100 invoices into a single batch, the feedback on that is much larger and much more difficult to identify. Whereas if you're doing one transaction at a time, it tends to be error-free. And again, as you do items either in advance or in deferment of the close, you have a delayed solution, if any. Whereas if you're doing these items and they've been evaluated, then you can have an immediate solution at the transaction, the process level. Regardless, if you still have the process that isn't as effective as it could be, you're going to have excess waiting times. And what the Kaizen event or the lean process will do is reduce those wait times as well. Finally, Rishi talked about empowerment. And traditional close, of course, is very finance centric, right? We submit all these documentation to the accounting department. They take on all the workload. In a lean process where you have the process mapped out, process owners share in that workload. Where you have a finance department that is a centralized solution, with the lean process, we can have a localized solution. This, particularly if you have subsidiaries, et cetera. The other element I'll mention is that quality is audited into the process. In other words, I can't tell you the number of times I've had clients say to me, we want a B+ on the audit. We just want a C+ on the audit, or we're only doing this work because the auditor has asked for it. So you're basically, the quality that you're building into the system is based on the audit. Whereas if you empower your employees and you have a documented process, that quality is built into the process. It doesn't come externally, it comes internally. And finally, there's excess approvals. These things are timely consuming. We'll identify where the approvals need to occur and empower employees to implement those to reduce the overall amount of approvals needed. So, Rishi.
Thank you. So fast close, I think we can see a map on my in the background. We are currently actually working on one of these processes, the procure to pay process, and how to close it fast. And so lean fast close begins with a process mapping of your entire close process. And the idea here is to identify the pain points you are having. That's PAIN, pain points you are having. Which part of the process we have loops going back and forth, which sub-processes take a lot more time, so on and so forth. And so lean fast close begins with mapping the entire process. And during that time, one thing that will be apparent is are the sub-processes, and which could be, we have an inventory sub-process, which is part of the close, the payables, payroll, billing, cash, final close, etc. And all these things would be very apparent as to where do we get the biggest bang for the buck once we start improving which sub-process. Question 3.
All right, Talia.
Awesome. Thanks, Rishi. The third question is, which sub-process takes the most amount of time during month close? A, inventory, B, payroll, C, payables, D, cash, E, billing, F, final close, and G, other. If you select your answer choice on the screen and hit the submit button, your polling question will be recorded for today. I will give everyone a few moments to respond here. And we can take a look at the results here.
Great. Not unexpected to see payables up there towards the top of the larger bucket. It tends to have the highest volume, and there's a lot of opportunity for streamlining, and we'll touch on that process in just a moment. But inventory, clearly, an area that remains a challenge. And of course, the final close, vast majority of the people on this call are in accounting departments. And so I fully understand the element of wanting to streamline the financial close, specifically the pervasive process. So next step is let's jump into each individual process, some of the individual processes, and talk about how we can work with you to help streamline some of these processes because of the waste and the pain points that are built within. Before I jump into the pain points and directly, I do want to note that what we have here as far as our presentation is very briefly an interface that you're going to see in the next few slides. But in this particular case, this is a whiteboarding tool. In this case, it's Mural. There's many whiteboarding tools out there, but it is really a space to collaborate with multiple people at once via a workshop. While the leader works with the team to build out the detailed processes via the yellow sticky pads, the team is then labeling each step with pain points or inefficiencies for resolution. Rishi and I have worked together to use this map to create process and address pain points collectively, with all having access to this whiteboard. In other words, everybody on the team is accessing and fulfilling data into the whiteboard, and it's great stuff. And basically, it works like an operationally focused Visio flowchart with tons of metadata. It's cheap and proves that you don't need to spend a bunch of money for solutions when the issue is relevant to process excellence. For those who are looking to generally improve, this is a good step. For companies that are looking to be audited, this type of mapping, flowcharts, et cetera, are crucial to ensuring proper risk coverage and even helps with the identification of segregation of duties conflicts. One other element this has been great is that Rishi and I work together while he works on helping the process owners to redesign and re-engineer the process. I can be looking and making sure that everything is being done in accordance with GAAP. So it's a great system. But again, I digress. Again, Mural, it's a great whiteboarding tool, and you'll see several maps that we, again, create with multiple people involved at the same time doing it. But the inventory, there's a lot of pain points in the inventory process. Counting for inventory can take multiple days. There's also the elements of ensuring proper cutoff, that you have an accurate count of the inventory, then determining the lower of cost or NRV, determining the obsolescence reserve, and then completing the journal entry. And as a result of the elements that just are the everyday approach to the inventory process, you could have manual counting that leads to errors, resulting in discrepancies between the actual stock and recorded inventory. It's time consuming. Physical inventory counts can be labor intensive and take significant time, resulting in regular operations. It also can be disorganized. A poorly organized storage area can complicate the counting process, leading to inefficiencies and errors. Additionally, there might be variations in seasonal inventory levels due to seasonal demand that can make counting more challenging and unpredictable. And what about employee training? If there's inadequate employee training, counting procedures can be mistaken and you can have issues. Additionally, if there's reliance on technology like barcode scanners, those can create issues if the devices malfunction, if there's a lack of proper integration with the other tools. Finally, stock movements can complicate the counting process, especially if items are not returned to their original locations. So Rishi, what are some ways that we address some issues in inventory?
Absolutely. Actually, in question 3, I was expecting inventory to be the highest, and it did not. But again, as Steve was talking about, we have to improve the process, which are the in-between processes. So at one of the companies, which was taking 40 hours to do the inventory, we were able to reduce that to 3.5 hours using the Kaizen event methodology. This is in 1 week. And the additional benefit of this was that the picking time reduced by 70%. All this was done by reorganizing the warehouse. We eliminated, there were many things that we did, but eliminating the vertical movement of forklift as an example, setting 2-bin systems within the warehouse, and completely doing the pick and the counting path by putting like things together, so on and so forth. We were able to achieve these results, and this resulted in approximately $1 million of savings for this $50 million company. And so again, what Steve was focusing on is the outside processes, the process in the middle, not the process. Improvements have a significant impact on the reduction of the close time. Steve?
Sure. Let's talk quickly about payroll. Accounting for exempt and non-exempt labor hours can be a challenge. There's sick, there's vacation time accuracy. This is actually, payroll is a haven for non-value added activities, frankly. There's this element we talked about, 95% of a process can be addressed through the non-value add activities. And if you think about the element of tracking down approved time cards, right? The actual amount of time it takes to approve a time card is almost instantaneous. But if you're tracking down time cards, tracking down approvals, delaying and creating wait times for the payroll process to run, et cetera, those are all things that lead to pain points. So inaccurate timekeeping can lead to payroll discrepancies that will then need to be resolved. Keeping up with changing laws and ensuring accurate withholding can be complex, can be risky. And integration with HR systems can be a challenge. If there's a lack of integration between payroll and HR systems, you can have data silos and inefficiencies. And then handling employee questions and concerns is a huge pain point for the payroll and HR folks. These things can be time consuming, and especially if the processes are unclear, the tracking down the data can be more challenging. Additionally, managing payroll costs while ensuring competitive compensation can be a balancing act. And preparing for the year-end tax reporting, et cetera, from payroll perspective can be pretty stressful, requiring meticulous attention to detail. So, Rishi, maybe you could talk a little bit about the payroll process.
Absolutely. I think, one-piece flow and empowerment, these two concepts from the Lean toolkit, if used, will dramatically improve the month-end close aspect of payroll. And so closing hours every week. So at one of the clients, in fact, I'll share an example from today, what's going on right now. But at one of the clients, when we were able to close the hours every week, that is exempt and non-exempt, the month-end close was very smooth. I mean, there was no additional time needed, and all the, whether the sick time has been accounted for or the vacation, things like that. It was a culture change. It took about a month for people to change, especially the exempt employees. But closing the week at the manager level, the approvals come in every week. And if, let's say, the supervisor is on vacation, another supervisor, takes on the responsibility. And it was very quick. The entire the payroll process on the last of the month was extremely smooth. And think of the commission payments. A lot of the companies, finance calculates the sales commission. I think while the process is complicated at some of the companies, but finance typically calculates the commissions. They send it to sales. There's disagreement. Sales do their own calculations and send it to finance. And the dispute is resolved, the differences are resolved in the dollar amount, and then ultimately finance ends up usually using the salesperson number as the commission and transacts. And to empower the people, the salespeople, to in a lean environment, to calculate the commission, submit the calculations, and finance verifies and transacts. And the work for everyone is reduced, and the close process is a lot smoother and faster during month end.
Great. Another area, payables. Big swings in cash flows create unpredictable transactions during month end. Procure to pay is a process that's ripe for improvement due to the handling of so many transactions. You have PO approval, coding issues, received but not invoiced. You have invoices waiting for goods or service to be completed. This is a process that sees the most opportunity for some type of automation tool, frankly. But it's not required, and again, may only be speeding up a broken or inefficient process. So difficulty in tracking down the status of orders, invoices, and payments can lead to confusion and delays. Reliance on manual data entry and paper-based processes can result in errors, inefficiencies, and increased processing times. Changes in managing supplier relationships, including performance tracking and communication, can lead to issues with quality delivery. And errors in purchase orders, invoices, or receipts can cause discrepancies, leading to disputes and delays in payments, not to mention follow-up time by staff. Delays in the approval process for purchasing an invoice can slow down the entire P2P cycle, affecting cash flow and supplier relationships. And then there's always difficulty in integrating procurement systems with accounting and the ERP system, which can lead to data silos and inefficiency. A lack of visibility into spending can also make it difficult to manage budgets and control costs effectively. And if there's poor coordination between the procurement function and inventory management, that can lead to stockouts or overstock situations. Rishi, why don't you talk a little bit about payroll or payables?
Absolutely, and there's a question on that as well. I will answer that question from Scott Oden. And so one-piece flow, empowerment, and standardization, we'll talk about those three from the Lean Toolkit. So one-piece flow, one of the clients, they conduct the two-way match at the point of receipt of material. At that point, and this happens on a daily basis, and as soon as the two-way match is submitted, any issues are resolved that day, not during month end. And of course, the three-way match is conducted when the invoice is received. And so the bulk of the work is done one piece at a time, and the people at the receiving are empowered to make the two-way match, and then the three-way match is done by finance. Now, there's a question by Scott. We always get hung up on how many days we give AP and AR to lock. Once they've locked the GL, the GL team can then close. From a best practices standpoint, what is likely a good time frame for companies to lock AR AP? My answer to that is 0 days. If you're doing one-piece flow, for example, where I'm currently at a client, what would happen at the end of the month? They were able to change that to 2 weeks, and today we are working on AP being done every week. And because there's a very small setup, all the questions are resolved ahead of time, all the approvals, all those things happen during the month and the month end. And this is less stressful for everyone. And this is, the onus is on everyone, not just finance, to follow up with the owners for approvals, things like that. And the month end is very smooth. So, 0 days, 1 day, whatever that number is how I would like to answer that question. But case 2 is very close to that, where one of the students we teach at the university, the Greenbelt class, and they started following the one-piece flow. And the CFO lady, she was, wow, we have benefited from payment discounts. The late fees have been eliminated. The quality of the transaction has gone up. One of our clients actually sent $14 million to someone else with a mistake, and that person is not to be found. And so that was a $14 million loss. And so the quality of the transaction goes up in one-piece flow, and all the peaks and valleys of the cash flows are eliminated. So one of the CFOs was talking about how the month-end peak eliminated. It's with the elimination of that, it's very easy for her to predict and manage the cash flows for the entire, for the next 3 months, she said. And so standardization is the third thing for payables, especially expenses. One of our clients, they had about 500 GL codes, out of which 200 were actively used. After a day of trying to smoothen that, we ended up with 20 codes which were typically used. Was it back and forth? Yes. What is the information that we truly need? And it was just on 20 codes. And so this is a third example of where we were able to standardize to 20 GL codes, and the quality improved, a lot less questions during the month and during the month end, and good for all, a shorter close.
Great. Another area is billing. And actually, this is an area where it's Moss Adams' physician heal thyself, which we did. We had significant delays in our billing just on the legacy methodology of how we tracked, processed, delivered invoices to our own clients. And we started focusing on our daily sales outstanding metric and holding folks accountable to it, but by taking certain steps such as automating our invoicing, standardizing and rehashing our billing procedures, implementing recurring billing for recurring customer billings that took place, implementing and accepting electronic payments. And then the most important is the regular review of accounts receivable, which we do multiple times a week. So billing can also be a challenge, of course, for everybody. You have invoices where if there's error in billing amounts, then customers can lead to disputes and delays in payment as you resolve those. Late issuance of invoices can negatively impact cash flow, lead to customer frustration. There's a lack of automation frequently. Manual billing process can be time consuming and prone to human error. I have a whole slew of list of pain points for billing, but in the interest of time, I'll pass it to you, Rishi, as we move along here with the billing resolutions.
Excellent. So again, we are looking at procure to pay, linking shipping and billing systems. This can be done manually or electronically, depending on the size of the company. And the finance generates an invoice on a daily basis. This process right now, we're getting into a weekly basis. And how do we change the systems so that we can send bills every week? And hopefully in 6 months, can we do that in twice a week? So stabilize the system twice a week. And again, all the, Scott, I think there were a couple of other questions, all the anxiety, all the, how do we close all these things? When can they be sent out? They're all resolved if that can be done. And this, one question is, it always takes less time if we do one-piece flow as opposed to batch or short interval control, etc. So one piece in empowerment, enabling shipping employees to actually connect to the accounting system, where the invoice can be generated on a daily basis, on a one-piece flow basis, and then finance is the ultimate authority. It could be sent out once any issues are resolved. And of course, one thing which we have not succeeded is closing the sales cycle 1 day prior to month end or 2 days prior to month end. While this, if we can do that, I think the sales of the year will not be impacted at all, but the financial close would definitely be impacted in a very positive way. And this has many benefits for the operating people, the operations, and other departments as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. As we talk about, if we talk about cash, again, there's tons of pain points, resolving disputes or inquiries regarding uncashed checks, tracking down items, mistakes and reconciliations. These are all things that can lead to challenges, particularly if you're looking to improve liquidity, reduce costs, enhance your overall financial health, or you're looking to get a good cash flow forecast. These are all challenges that you may have that can be addressed through the lean cycle. Cash is sort of a straightforward area, and it's very challenging to get gains in the small cycle, and the bank reconciliation is usually pretty straightforward. Automation is frequently used in cash management software to automate routine tasks such as invoicing, payment processing, reconciliation, which resolves some minor issues. But again, this is a process that is also ripe for some lean activity, but there's a little less activity than some of the other processes, which is why in the interest of time, I also want to get to the final close, the pervasive process against all other processes. And essentially, the financial close can take too long, as we've talked about, often extending beyond the desired time frame, which can delay reporting and decision-making. You might have challenges if you've got subsidiaries, if you've got foreign currency, if there's non-routine transactions. It can be a time-consuming mess. Inaccurate or inconsistent data can lead to errors in the financial statement, which then require time for additional corrections. Manual processes, if you're relying on manual data and spreadsheets, you have the risk of human error, inefficiencies, and a ton of other elements, but primarily lack of standardization is key. Inconsistent processes across departments can complicate the close and the reporting process, leading to confusion and errors. Rishi, you want to talk a little bit about the close?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things we implemented, one of the clients, and this was about 5 years ago now, was we started considering labor as fixed cost as opposed to variable cost. This definitely is a big change in thinking. This is a big change from an accounting standpoint. But once this company started considering labor as a fixed cost, besides the benefit of a shorter close, so on and so forth. So this company is focusing more on cash as opposed to percentages, percentages. And so in 4 years, from an operations standpoint, wages nearly doubled. This is something to be very proud of, that and of course, they implemented a few other lean things as well. Wages doubled for the production associates. The client built 3x the product with the same number of people. They were able to do that. The clients gained the customers gained trust, because the lead times by this client was always met. And while the competitors were increasing their prices 8% annually, the client increased their prices by 4% only, and the sales have increased 2x. And so it requires a different thinking. It requires a different pattern of thinking. But once they were able to achieve this, everything was simpler, and operations and financials went through the roof as well. The fourth question.
And our fourth question of the day is, do you feel a lean fast close will significantly reduce your month-end close cycle? A, yes, definitely. B, yes, it probably will. C, I am not sure. D, probably not. And E, it will not reduce my month-end close cycle. I will give everyone a few moments to respond here. And for those of you that would like a copy of today's slide deck, you can download them from the folder that says slide deck and handouts. We will also be sending the slides via email after the webcast. Give
Perfect.
everyone a few more minutes.
As part of that deck, at the very last slide, there's a small bibliography of some of the books that we've mentioned here on the traditional and on the lean close that you can reference as well. Also, if you submitted a question today and we haven't answered it on the webcast here, we'll send you a note directly to respond. So fear not if we haven't gotten to it.
Awesome. And then we can take a look at the results here.
Thank you. Yes, I think, that's 60, 60+%. We definitely feel, in our experience, the majority are on the yes side. But we have definitely experienced this. And I think the standard is 1 day. On the first, the month is closed. And this is a very exciting metric to meet. So how do we do that? In 6 to 9 months, this can definitely be achieved. Month one, we thought, whatever we get from the overall mapping, wherever the biggest bottleneck is from a time standpoint, that would be step number one. You do a Kaizen event. Month one for 3 weeks is for implementation and sustainment. Month two, payroll, payables after that, billing. Month 5 is cash, and month 6 is the final close. And there may be some other things. So that's why we say 6 to 9 months. And something that can definitely be done by the people with innovation, with involvement, with minimal or zero capex. And questions, Steve?
Yeah, let me summarize as we get to the end of our time here, and then we can address some questions. Just remember that process excellence and not automation necessarily. And automation can be great, but process excellence is the key to achieving and continuously improving month-end close without investment in labor and software. And then a fresh approach to accelerating the close is required. Let's get past some of the traditional methods and find process excellence in the existing processes, leveraging the existing resources that we've got. And then always remember that lean sequence is easier, better, faster, cheaper. And we'll get there through the short interval control, one-piece flow, standardization, empowerment, and Kaizen. So just a couple of things to think about as we wrap up our time here. And as I mentioned, we will be responding to all of these questions directly to folks that we have. And we look forward to seeing any additional questions that you might have. If you're posting to the Q&A right now, we're happy to address any of those questions. But Talia, as we're at the end of our time, is there a closeout?
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both. Thank you, Steve and Rishi, for a great presentation today. If we didn't have time to answer your questions, we will do our best to follow up with you after the webcast. As a reminder, if you attended today's presentation in a group and would like to receive CPE credit, you must complete the group attendance sheet found in the slide deck and handouts window. If you participated as an individual and met all certification requirements, your certificate is available to download now in the CPE progress window. I'll keep the webcast console open for a few minutes to give you time to download your CPE certificate. A copy of your CPE certificate will be emailed within 3 weeks, should you have any difficulty downloading it now. Here's a link to an online survey where you can provide feedback for today's presentation. Please take a moment to complete this survey, as your feedback is very important to us. Thank you for joining us. We hope you'll join us again next time.